Hi, everybody, and welcome to another version of Wisdom Wednesday. This time out, man, talk about your soul sisters. I got to talk with my good friend, KellyRae Brown, who I just met that day, but good friend. And I'll tell you why. Number one, my dad's name is Ray, my brother's name is Kelly. So KellyRae, right there, that told me right off. And then, funny how spirit works, where I just asked this random question out of the blue and she took it and ran with it, and the rest of the hour is just us just boom, 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 going back and forth, talking about intuition, talking about how we learn to be intuitive, how we have to let go of outcome, how we have to learn to forgive just for ourselves. I mean, by the end of the hour, we're like, oh my God, we could go on for another couple hours. I love those conversations, and I love to bring those kinds of conversations to you. So enjoy this one. And we'll see you on the other side. Hey, everybody. Today I am here with the lovely KellyRae Brown, and she is a coach and a mindset coach, and we are going to be talking about intuition. Imagine that. Hi, KellyRae.
Yay! Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for this opportunity. What a great fun thing it seems like it's going to be.
Yes. I've conversations, just great conversations, just thrill me to death. So it's always fun to have that opportunity to talk to people about intuition and what they do. And I wanted to start this conversation because I think it's an interesting thing. Just briefly, yesterday I had this experience where I could not move. I've learned as an intuitive, I guess now what I'm calling it is this stay put energy where your body just doesn't move. And I noticed it, and I was like, questioned it. And then as soon as I wrote down in my journal, I don't know why I'm not moving. My mom called and she needed me. And I dropped everything to go help her with her dog who was passing away yesterday. And then again, later in the day, it's like, we'd been there for 6 hours and he hadn't passed yet. And my brain is like, okay, you just go. And my body's like, nope, we're staying. And sure enough, like an hour and a half later, he passed away. So that's paying attention to your body.
Right.
And because your brain will I have the chills even now as I'm talking about it. What do you suppose that is? Do you think the body just knows the truth? I mean, where do you go from there? That's probably a loaded question for you, but let's go with, have you had that experience?
Yeah. And in some ways I see our souls using these flesh vessels, so to speak, as ways to maneuver around here on planet Earth, right? I mean, we've chose to incarnate for these experiences. And so I think, yeah, absolutely, our soul has the ability to kind of knock on us a little bit, like, hey, I need you to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be a very good way of doing that is, hey, I just need you to pause for a minute because there's something that we see that's going to happen ahead of time.
Yeah.
But being human, we don't always recognize those signs. So either we try to push against those or think something's against us. And I think the more that we're learning to be present in present time, then we can honor them. Like yesterday, you knew there was something, you may not have known what exactly it was, but you knew you had this kind of pause moment happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was really funny because as soon as my mom called, boom, into action, going, got it, and went.
Yeah.
And I've had that experience, and I used to call it the experience of wait, but I think it's just stay put. I mean, I try to teach people, here's what figure out what when your body's telling you yes, and figure out when your body is telling you no. Mm-hmm. And that's the place to start when you're building your intuition. And then you learn, wait, and don't do anything. Just stop. And that's a hard one.
It is, because we're continually being taught that we must always be going, we must always be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So how did you get started doing this? You're an intuitive, you've been a coach. How long have you been a coach?
I've been a coach for over 15 years.
Okay.
And probably, if I, being in all honest, longer than that. But that's when I kind of really took it to, oh, this is a possibility.
Right.
I didn't know that that was something. Certainly, even 20 years ago, I didn't know about coaches, and if I did, they would probably be more in corporate world than they would be in personal development, spiritual development type thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess in that realm, they would have called them mentors or gurus or something, and that never resonated with me.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's true. When you talk to most coaches, they tell you, I've been a coach all my life. I've been doing this. I mean, I can remember when I was in the second grade and if a classmate came and asked me for a solution to a problem, and I was like, well, here's what you do. You know? So
Right.
I think we all have that. Maybe we just incarnate with that helpful, we're souls who assist. I guess that
Right.
to me. Yeah.
When you notice that, because people in the grocery store you don't even know come and tell you their stuff. What do you think I should do? And I'm like, oh my gosh, pick the Cheerios. I don't know.
I know. I've had that where it's like you say to somebody, how's your day going? And they just tell you everything. And you're like, wow, well, thank you for sharing.
Or what I think gets me more now is when people they're like, wow, I can't believe I just told you all of that. I don't even know you.
Yeah.
It's like they're finally starting to get in touch with themselves, and that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I guess it's on a, when you're talking about energy, it's that level of just having that aura that people know that,
Mm-hmm.
they can help you. So is intuition, I know you want to talk. I love teaching people this because I actually had somebody say to me the other day, I don't have any intuition. I was like, you're 68 years old and you're still breathing. Yes, you do. You totally have intuition. Don't even tell me you don't. When did you become
Right.
aware of the ability to enhance it? Or have you worked with that?
Well, yeah, well, my story was I had it super, super young, and I didn't know what that was. Like I could, like deja vu,
Right.
all of a sudden one day as a kid, I'm like, wow, I've been here before, but how do I know that I've been here before?
Yeah.
Or that gut feeling, as they say,
Right.
things that would ping me inside my body when I knew it was like, oh, this doesn't feel good. So I actually went to, I don't know why, but I went to my grandmother and was telling her this, and I'll never forget. She took me to this part of her house that was like the off limit zone that nobody went to, and I was like, oh, this is a little scary. And we walk into this room, and she kind of looks around like, I hope nobody's listening. And she's like, you have a really special gift that God gave you, but we don't talk about it. So just it's for your safety. And I thought, I don't know what this special gift is you're talking about, lady, but this is scaring the crap out of me.
Oh my God.
So I actually just, and I know now looking back, it was probably her way of like, I don't know either because we have it, but I don't know how to teach you to do anything with it.
Right.
So we'll just keep it a secret. And so for a very long time, even though it continued to operate within my body and in my mind, I like, nope, not listening to you. I'm going to run the other way because I don't want nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
And then I had my daughter, and that was like, yeah, no, game over. You're stepping into it now because she needs you to.
Right.
Because she's really, really powerful herself. So I needed to be able to cultivate a space that was safe for her to be who
Hmm.
she was. And for
Yeah.
me to be who I was too, it wasn't just
Right.
her. I didn't realize, I was thinking as a mom, I'm doing it to protect my kid, but also I needed to be able to develop this too, so that I could help other people that maybe have experienced something very similar to this.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? Because it used to be, and I mean, as you were telling me that story, I just totally got the chills, which always just is like, ah! But it's so funny that it used to be this space where it was taboo to talk about. You weren't allowed to talk about it. Now I think more and more people are accepting of it, and just, yeah, there's something more here.
Right. Even in mainstream TV, I hear them say, "Oh, you have really good energy." And I just laugh, because I'm like, those are words we would have never even heard
It's
20 years
come
ago.
into I mean, people talk about the law of attraction and manifesting all the time.
Right.
And it's like, it's part of the mainstream, so it's coming along. There's still people who are of the five senses and just not going to have it, but there's so many more people. And I always think, well, maybe I'm just in an echo chamber and it's just the people I attract. But it's so funny that it just has become so accepted now. And I love that part of your story where it wasn't until you had your daughter that you were like, yeah, okay, I need to do this. I need to do this. What were some of the first things you did? I mean, did you just allow it in, or did you study? What did you do?
Yeah, no, I did. I spent a lot of time in like prayer and meditation, because I was like, I know that this is something,
Mm-hmm.
and something that I've been avoiding. So, please show me, please teach me. And so through that, it was that allowance of myself to not be afraid of the unknown, because so many people are taught, oh, there's demons and demonics out there. I don't know that to be true or not, so I don't want to put a label on that. But that conditioning, that deep rooting conditioning of things that we should be afraid of,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure. Did I want to see angels? I work with angels all the time now in my
Right.
practice.
Yeah.
But so, and it was and this is what's so beautiful about how I feel God, universe, whatever you want to label it as, works at your speed. So I wasn't seeing anything so monumental that I couldn't understand it. It was comprehensible to me, what
Right.
I was experiencing.
Right. Yeah. I don't think I've ever had this, boom, here you go. I mean, now I get like downloads. I'll be like, angels, please give me this. And I
Right,
get, boom, there you go. You got it. Because I ask for it. But
right,
it is that whole, the angels will not jump in without your giving them permission to intervene. I mean, certainly they're going to keep you from harm. But
right.
for everyday occurrences, until you say, angels, please help me, they're going to let you just flounder all you want to flounder until you're ready to learn the lesson.
Right. And then it was a matter of, like, one time I was coming home with my daughter and my mom from San Francisco, and my daughter was in the back seat, and she got a little fussy. And I told my mom, I said, there's a reason we need to pull over. And there was nothing wrong with her. She wasn't hungry. She didn't need to be changed, anything like that. And we just pulled over on the side of the road for a period of time. And then we got back on the highway, and we had averted an accident.
Yep.
And I know there was nothing loud, nothing boisterous. It was just that subtlety and being able to sink in with it and say, you know what, I think there's a reason why we need to pull over. And a
Yeah.
lot of times we don't know those reasons.
Exactly. You just know to stop or not, or to move forward or not.
Right. And then when you do those things and then you realize, oh my gosh, I just averted an accident or something like that, it kind of builds your confidence, so that the next time you have that little hunch or something, you honor it. You may not always get it right, and that's not right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's just, but I think that's how it works, to build up your confidence and
Right.
having abilities. We all have them.
Absolutely. And it's always what I tell people, because a lot of times people get very caught up in, am I right or am I wrong? I just kind of developed this attitude. I'm willing to be wrong. I could be wrong, because I also know, I mean, I do card readings and everything online. And I adopted that. You know better than I do. It's your life. I'm going to give you what is filtering through me. And as a human, there's a filter. And I may get it completely wrong. And I'm okay with that. Sometimes I still have this part in my monkey brain that's like, you got it wrong. It's like, but I try to encourage people to just not worry about right or wrong. That if it's wrong, then you'll figure it out another way.
Well, and the other thing too is I think, at least from my experience, is getting people to actually look at their values and their belief systems. Because so often we live and operate off of those belief systems, but we've never really looked at them. It's like, well, that's just how I was raised. Okay, but why don't we look at those to see if those are still applicable, or if they are kind of in conflict for your life now? You know, like for me, being taught that having intuition as a special gift was, you know, something we didn't talk about. That created an internal struggle for me when it started coming on full time. And people were seeing it, because, you know, the belief I had learned was, ooh, we don't talk about this, yet it was coming out. And I was saying things to people and they're like, how did you know? And I'm like, oh my God.
How do I explain how I knew?
Right. And oh my God, did I just let the secret out of the bag? I had to really go and kind of do some work on those beliefs and say, you know, I no longer hold those to be true. And I recognize my grandmother was doing that as a way to protect me in the best way that she could, but I no longer needed that kind of protection. So I had to do some adjustments around my beliefs on this gift.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I always feel like, you know, part of the spiritual journey is you have to take out every single belief you've got and look at it and go, is that me? Is that my belief? Or where did that come from? It was like even one of the things and I can't even remember, it was early on. Oh, I think it was when I was in therapy. And my therapist said, start paying attention to the voices in your head and see if they're your voice, or if they come from someplace else. And I mean, I can remember the days. I remember when my kids were little and my husband and I were sitting outside and my kids did something, and I can't remember. I said something like, if you don't knock that off, you and I are going to go to Fist City. And I looked at my husband and I went, did you just see my mom? He's like, yeah, I did. I sure did. Yep. And so you have those ingrained beliefs where you're like, wait, that's not me. And it's okay to reject that. It's okay to say, not me, I can push that aside.
Right.
Yeah. I have an itch.
Well, and it is a big one. I mean, because we formulate those so early in our lives that we forget we've even formulated them. We're just operating from them. Right.
And
it's just like the first time I actually gave somebody, I was in a massage, because I also do massage. I've been doing that for 10 years. And in the middle of massage, all of a sudden I smelled gardenias, and I'm like, I don't even know what a gardenia is or the smell, but it was somehow I knew that it was gardenia. And I said to the client on the table, I said, do gardenias mean anything to you? And she started sobbing, and she says, yes, my mom passed over, and I've been wanting to connect with her, and gardenias were her favorite flowers. I mean, I was just shocked because I had no idea.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I had actually talked my intuition out loud to somebody without the fear of and I was like, and then of course, then my inner critic, after I said all that, she had that beautiful experience. The little dialogue in your head says, are you sure? You probably shouldn't do that, because, you know, this went well this time, but what about next time?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's getting past that. I'm going to look like an idiot if I say this.
Right.
Just say it. And it's like, I mean, it's like, you know, I'll do card readings online, and somebody will come back and go, oh my God, that was spot on. And I'm like, really? Was it? Wow. It still surprises me, and I don't think I want to lose that surprise, that element of surprise. I think
Right.
it's important to just not expect and just allow that to happen, and it does. But that whole part where you think, oh my God, I'm going to look like a fool, you have to get over that
Right.
too if you want to do the job. I mean, you know, you can.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Those little confirmations just crack you up, and it's like, it's coming to me to ask you about synchronicity for some reason. Huh. That's really
Well, I mean, isn't that something? Synchronicity is just a fancy word for intuition.
yeah.
You know, to me, it's also the same as the word coincidence. You know, people that don't want to use the terms that might be labeled as woo-woo, you know, like
Yeah.
intuition or psychic or any of that, like they'll like, no, that wasn't intuition, that was just a coincidence, or that was just a synchronicity. Really? Okay.
Yeah. I think that's the funny part is you get to a place where you're like, there really aren't any coincidences.
Right.
There's grace, and there's the divine communication to you, and it's an amazing thing to be able to just follow it and just be at peace with it. I think, how do you advise your clients? How do you start them off with learning to trust that inner voice?
It has to be learning to trust themselves.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the more that you kind of step into your own, I'm going to say power, meaning not giving away to every little thing that your little inner critic tries to shield you from, warn you from, tell you how dumb and stupid and all those words.
Yeah.
You know, and by doing that, is even like with card reading, if you don't do it for anybody else, do it for yourself. I mean, I didn't start sharing cards with anybody because, again, that fear of not wanting to look stupid, not wanting to look dumb, or, you know, why haven't you gone and played the lottery if you know all this already, you know? Sorry, it just doesn't work that way.
I know. That's precisely why I don't use the word psychic. I just don't, because
Right.
there's such that expectation that means, you know, and you always hear that, like, so-and-so, you know, so-and-so psychic got into an accident, and they're like, well, how did they not know? It's like, you don't get to know everything. You just don't.
Well, and quite honestly, sometimes it's way easier to see it, feel it, hear it for other people than it is for yourself, because
It
you're
is.
too close to yourself and your own baggage that they're like, nah, that's not me. But wow, I can see really clear for you.
Exactly. And it comes down to, you've mentioned inner critic a couple of times, and I think that's an important conversation to have, is quieting that inner critic and getting that inner critic to go along with the program. That's
Oh yeah, there's been days where I'm like, you know what? Because my inner critic, her name is Trudy.
yeah.
And so some days when she's like really kind of biting at my heels, I'm like, look, Trudy, you can either ride in the trunk or you can ride in the car with me, but either way we're going.
I know, that's so funny. I think I've got, like, I do the same thing, because I did a lot of study on internal family systems, and you know, identifying parts of yourself, and I give them names. And so it's like, the big one was the professor, man. She was just on my ass like a rash all the time, and I'd be like, you need to stop right now. I'm just telling you. And you can get that voices. And even now, I mean, you know, we're evolved women. We can sit there and we know the power, and we know, and I can still have days where it's like that energy zaps, and man, that inner critic just jumps on it and takes it. I mean, I had an occasion the other day, I can't remember what it was, but there was something where I was sad, I was depressed, things were not going well. And I knew, don't pay attention to anything your brain says right now. Just don't, because your
Right.
brain's going to just start in on you. and tell you, why are you doing this? What do you think you're doing? You think you're special.
Well, the other thing too, for those that are first, tapping into their intuition, is learning to differentiate between what's yours and what's somebody else's. Because oftentimes that was something I had to really kind of work through too, is I would have moments like what you just talked about where, I wake up all feeling good, feeling strong, powerful, whatever. And then an hour later, I'm in the corner, boo-hoo, rocking like my world's falling apart. I'm thinking, but nothing's changed.
Right.
Not realizing that I'm also picking up somebody else's energy or somebody else's fear or pain or sadness or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had to learn how to be able to ground myself and also ask myself, is this mine or somebody else's? And that's a process as well.
And that's a really important question to ask, is this mine or somebody else's? Because, being an intuitive, we're also empaths, which means that any emotion that's floating around in the air, we're going to grab. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, you're right. I was good an hour ago. Why am I not good right now? What the hell? And so, where are we going with this? What's happening? And so what's your favorite exercise for grounding?
Depending on the day, if it's a really kind of crazy day, the first thing I do literally is when I get home, I will take my shoes off and go immediately stand out in grass. Or go, hug a tree. And I know that sounds really ridiculous.
I've done it. It doesn't feel to me at all. I've done it.
Right. Or, if that's not an option, I will take a shower, because just that water just feels like it cleanses everything off, just washes any debris that I've collected over the day.
Right. I know, it's really fun. Oh, go ahead.
If I don't have time, like going in between multiple sessions with clients, you may not have the ability to go take a shower in between, or there may not be grass. So a lot of times I'll just give myself a moment before I enter into a room with them and take some deep breaths, and with each deep breath feeling me coming more to the center of my stomach. And that kind of helps ground me and shield me.
Right. I know I don't have a tree in my yard, but so I have to go like away to a park and find a tree. And it's like so funny, because I'll be like right there and I'm like, I know I need to hug this tree. I really need to hug. There's people around. Oh my God, I'm not gonna.
Right. You can put your hand on it.
Stand there, lean against the tree. Kind of like, okay, we're gonna hug. But it is funny. And it's like I had one of the people who taught me about grounding, and I use this in a lot of my meditations, is teaching people to imagine that there's a hook going down into the earth and sending everything down that hook. And my friend always just said, you can do that at any moment of the day, any second. You can just carry that hook with you around with you, and you don't have to sit and meditate. You just ground it, and that'll do it.
Right.
Yeah. And it is that breathing. I had a situation the other day where as soon as I could feel this person just feeling, getting anxious and all of this energy is coming out of her, I'm like, stop right now and breathe. You stop. You take a breath.
Right, because we forget to take a deep breath. It's we do a lot of that fight or flight, shallow breathing, that we start to get into anxiousness and panic.
Yeah. And so just that deep, deep breath. And I love that. I learned the technique where you take a deep breath and you count 1 at the end of the inhale, and then exhale and count 2 at the end of the exhale. But you have to wait for the end. You can't jump ahead. And it really gets you in the moment. It stops you. And I'm not wanting to breathe again. It just stops you, and just, it connects you right there, right then, because you have to focus on that.
Right.
Yeah. Do you meditate regularly?
Nope.
Me neither.
To be real honest.
I know. Me neither. It's really funny. I will. And, I'll go through periods of time, and sometimes I have a thing where it's like, okay, I need to meditate. But I guess my regular practice is really just getting up in the morning, and now I've started with a prayer or a meditation, like right now I'm doing a meditation by Ernest Holmes. It's, my good is here, and it's here now. And so I'll do that, and then I'll journal. And that's about as consistent as I get. I mean, I always tell people I'm consistently inconsistent. So
yeah, I would say that would be true for me too. Aside from my morning and evening ritual, which is basically a prayer of thanks, and gratitude for whatever the day brings, and gratitude and thanks for what the day brought.
Yeah.
And that's about it. And it's interesting because before I decided to delve fully in and embrace being intuitive, doing coaching, all of that, running my own business,
mm-hmm.
I was doing a lot more of those other ritualistic things.
Right.
Because my life didn't feel balanced.
Right.
Being an entrepreneur, single mom, all of that is very, very hectic, but it doesn't feel out of balance to me. Mm-hmm. As much as it was when I was doing things that maybe weren't in alignment with what I should be doing.
Yeah. I've done those things. Yeah, it's true. I think it's like one of the things that comes to me is it's like, and I when I first started on this whole journey of learning about myself, one of the most incredible poems that I discovered this writing by Patricia Lynn Riley about Imagine a Woman. And it's a great poem. I'll have to post it again because I just love it so much. But one of it was, imagine a woman who creates her own spirituality. And that was really, I am combination of whatever you want to call it, but it's me. I've created my beliefs, my spirituality, and my practice, and my practice works well for me. But
I would love to see this poem.
It's a wonderful poem. It really is. So I'll definitely have to post it again. And it really was. It was the basis. I remember reading this poem and put it up on my wall, looked at it daily, and like a year later I'm like, oh my God, I'm that woman now. Wow, I did it. And then I had so much more to do. I was like, there was so much more, but I'm like, yes, I've created my woman. I honor the goddess in myself. I don't compete with other women. I honor every woman. It to some extent, I had a period of time where I didn't, but yeah, it gave me something to work towards. And I was just so blessed to find that poem and learn to create that spirituality. My brother always tells me he's a Buddhist, so he says I'm a Buddhist wrapped in Western clothing, and I'm like, whatever. Yeah.
You're like, as long as it's flowy.
Yeah, it's going, it's all right. I think he still kind of thinks I'm a little nuts because I talk to spirits and stuff like that. But I'm like,
some days I'm a little more afraid of humans that I can see than I am of spirits.
Right. And that's part of our group is helping people to come out of the woo-woo closet. Do you feel like you're fully out and people expressing who you are authentically everywhere? I don't even want to say, do you feel like you are? Because you are. I don't even have to ask.
Well, and it's right. And it's like, I think the beautiful thing, like what you're doing and what I've seen just evolve over time, is being an example to people that the woo is whatever you want to make it. Mm-hmm. There isn't, you don't have to put on the turban and sit in front of a crystal ball and chant, no. Yeah. You can just be a human being like myself. I drink coffee. There's people that are like, no, I can't drink coffee. I have to be a vegan and, only eat nuts and grains on this day for me to get my channeling. No, don't do that. I cuss like a sailor sometimes too. It's just I think it's the moment you embrace having a feeling or seeing something or knowing that you know something without being able to explain it is when you're actually tapping in to that GPS connection that we all are built in with. We come already programmed with that GPS system in us to our spirit guides, God, whatever you want to call that.
Absolutely. I always tell people that, and that's kind of what started me on this. Well, I discovered it like last year, was that the ancient Egyptians believed that we had 360 senses, not 5. And I truly believe that some of us are gifted in some ways, and so others are gifted in different ways.
Right.
You know, it just depends. You don't have to fit any kind of program because we're all unique. We all
Right.
have whatever our ability is. And it's interesting, this conversation has come up a couple of times now on my interviews, is we have, some of us have greater gifts. I could not tell you what your aura is. I don't know what an aura, I couldn't see it. I don't know, but I know, I have a knowing of,
Right.
and that's the other thing is like, and tell me how this works for you. I can tell you that I can describe to you what I see, but it's not a vision. I just know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been occasions where I've seen like actual silhouettes of something,
Mhm.
but not most of the time. Most of the time it's like I see, I'll say the words I see, but
It's not an
I'm
actual
not
vision. Yeah.
no, and it's like, well, that just seems kind of oxymoron, but it's like I don't know.
Yeah.
I've just learned not to question too much anymore.
Exactly.
And it's beautiful, like you say, about how all of us have such a different. I mean, we have over 7 billion people or 8 billion people on the planet. To assume there's only one way
Mm-hmm.
to express or share or know something and teach something is just ridiculous. We're not all that special,
Right. Right. I mean, we're unique and yet we're not. It's like, one of my favorite ones is like, you know, yes, your story is unique, but is it's unique to you, but I've seen it so many times. It's like I have a friend who's going through
Right.
a divorce right now, and it's like, yes, her story is unique, but I have been there, done that. I know the emotion she's going through, what's happening. And and I've even told her, this is predictable. This is, you're here, you're pissed off right now, you're angry at yourself, you're angry at him, you're going to get beyond that. There's another stage after that. And so
Right.
we have unique stories, we have unique experiences, I guess, and yet it's still the same. Is that, it's, yeah, it's like, it's still, there's a pattern, I guess is what it is.
Right, because I think there's going to be somebody that's going to teach me when it's time for me to level up to something else.
Right.
Just so I think that's how this whole circulation thing works. Is
Yeah.
we just, the degrees of when it's time for us to go up, we'll meet somebody else along the way, and there's somebody for them when they want to level up. It's not,
Yeah. Yeah. It's coming to me
or
too.
maybe we're the ones that teach them at another time.
It's almost like,
It's
once you've learned a thing, you turn around and help somebody else and pull them forward.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's coming to me, a friend, I had a mentor one time, and it goes back, it speaks to that evil spirits kind of thing. And I said to her, I said, is there evil? And she's like, Star, you're vibrating at such a high frequency that just doesn't even come into your realm. And I get that from people who say, oh, there's evil out there. And it's like, well, yeah, but I don't focus on that. I focus on
Right.
good, and focus on the good that comes to me and the good that's in people. Even it's like the last few days I've looked at Facebook and been like, I'm not paying attention to that. I'm just not paying attention to that. And Scott will ask me, he'll be like, well, do you know what's going on here? And I'm like, no, I have no idea. I don't even want to know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, and I love Facebook for so many reasons. I don't dislike it for some of the crap I don't want to see. Because the beautiful thing is the crap that I see, I can either one, snooze it, I can hide it, or I can go to one of my friends or a group page that resonates with how I want to feel.
Yeah.
I don't have to immerse myself in the garbage if I don't want to. We all have that ability and that choice.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of for a while, like, during the presidential election, I was in there and paying attention to it. And I kept having this sense of, stop perpetuating what he's saying, because you're just giving him more attention. I can't even say his
Right.
name anymore. I can't, I just, not my president. I just, whatever. But at some point I had to, again, make the decision to stop paying attention to the news cycle. And even like,
Right.
you know, there's stuff coming up now and it's like, Scott's like, well, don't you care? And I'm like, the angels have said to me this, they're all lies. All sides are lying. And so I'm just
Right.
not giving it any energy. And even though, you know, there's children involved and people have this concern, I just get this sense of just don't even give it any energy because it's not true.
Right. And the sense I also get too is there's a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like we're just looking at a piece of a puzzle.
Right. Like the
There's
piece
a
of a 1,000-piece puzzle, the one piece,
yes.
you're trying to draw a
Mm-hmm.
conclusion from that. And
Right.
you can't. So do you isolate yourself from the news cycle or do you?
100%. I don't
Yeah.
watch it. And first of all, I don't need to because there's too many other people in the world that do, that just have this innate feeling that they have to tell you, hey, did you see what's on the news? No, even my closest friends and family that know I don't,
Mm-hmm.
because they do so much, it becomes their topic of conversation.
Yeah.
But honestly, it drains me too much. It can make me physically sick. It can send me into a really deep depression. And I know that that's not what my purpose here is for.
Yeah.
So I don't need to go in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me wonder about people who think that I should be. I mean, oh my God, when my kids were little, I spent my entire day watching Fox News and I can't even believe that I did that. I'm like, what?
Oh my God.
It was either Fox News or Nickelodeon is basically what my life was like when my kids were little, you know? So it was like,
Right. I know. I would take SpongeBob any day over Fox News.
right? Exactly. I mean, and that was funny because I saw somebody post about, you know, hey, I'm becoming too much of a fangirl because I'm reading about this. And it's like, I remember the days when I was like Face on Nickelodeon and Blue's Clues. I was a big fan of Steve, but not of Joe. You know?
Right.
This becomes your world. And I guess that's the point here, is that you create your world, and you can create a world
Mm-hmm.
where you pay attention to all of that negativity and that gets into your cells.
Right.
And I don't want that. I don't.
I don't like the way it makes me feel.
Yeah, I have too much of a mission and I think it does. It starts with individuals and teaching people to own their power and to recognize that they have a choice. They don't
Well,
have to
and it's
watch that.
kind of quite scary for people to step away from what they've always known.
Yeah.
I mean, just like we've shared here, what it was like the first time to actually step into, okay, I have some intuitive abilities.
Mm-hmm.
It was scary because of your conditioning and things that we repeat over all the time. If we repeatedly watch the news before a very short period of time, we become fearful, we become angry, we become rageful, we become sad, we become anxious,
Mm-hmm.
panicky, all of those things, because it is all shock factor, it is all fear-based
Right.
stuff,
Right.
and to be able to get away from that is challenging, because people are like, well, no, I need to know.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're going to know anyway.
Yeah.
Even if you continue living your life, you're still going to know whether it's going to be raining out today or
Right.
if there's traffic on the road.
Right.
You're still going to know that.
Right. It reminds me of, and I thought about this earlier today, which is really interesting. The movie Tom Hanks did, Bridge of Lies, Bridge of Spies. It was a movie about a Russian intrigue, and the character was like, you know, he was being accused of espionage and all of this stuff. And Tom Hanks would say to him, well, this is going on and this is going on. Aren't you worried about it? And the guy would go, would it help?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Worry is a negative prayer. So if you sit and worry, you're bringing it. You're
Yeah.
pulling that into your experience. And so I'm cracks me up one time. My mom would be like, I'm worried about this and I'm worried about this. And I'm like, Mom, worry is a negative prayer. It's just, don't do that. It just puts a curse on me. Don't do that. And so the next time I talk to her, I'm not worried. I'm concerned. Like, okay, gotcha, Mom. Fine. Not being concerned.
Right. Yeah, that's a really, I love that worry is a negative prayer. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. And I anymore, it's like, I money's always a worry, for me. It has been, it's one, and I'm working on developing that relationship with money, and recognizing the abundance. And anymore, I just go, yeah, but I know when I need it, it's there. So there's no point in worrying about it, because when that bill's due, the money's going to be there.
Right.
And that's a belief. And that was a belief that I've always had. And yet I didn't
Right.
recognize, oh, hey, I had that belief. And look at how that works. It's always there when I need it. Now I'm
Right.
working on increasing my capacity for taking on more money. Because I read a thing by Ernest Holmes the other day, and he was like, if you have 4 people and one makes 15 and one makes 25 and one makes 100, you can do the same prayer for them, but it's their belief in their capacity
Mm-hmm.
for taking that on. And so I keep trying to make my thimble into a red solo cup into a swimming pool. Just
Right.
working with that belief.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great example.
I love the power of belief. I mean, universal law and all of that is just, I so love teaching that. And it's such a great example of what you believe you receive. And I think about when we talk about how this is all becoming a part of the lexicon, part of the words, people say that all the time. What you
Mm-hmm.
believe you receive. Henry Ford said it back in the 20s, whether
Right.
you think you'll succeed or not, you're right. And so that it goes back to that power of belief in that, and looking at them and examining every single belief you have.
Oh, 100% so powerful, because when people talk about, oh, the law of attraction doesn't work, you're right, it doesn't work. It isn't enough just to use your I am affirmations and, do all your chants or whatever it is that you do. None of those things, those are just tools to help you get where you want to go. But if you're not fixing the core belief,
Right.
it's hard to use those tools efficiently, because you're now working with broken tools.
Right. Or it's like, if all you use is the law of attraction, you're fishing without bait or a hook or fishing line.
Right.
You're
Or
just
yeah, and you don't know how to use it properly, and it's not
right.
it's just a little bit of education. It's just a little
Right.
bit of taking a few steps and looking at a few things and be like, oh, I was using the hook the wrong way.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah, exactly. And and a lot of times people don't understand, because you think, oh, there's self-sabotage or things aren't working for me. And it's like, you have to pay attention to what's happening around you,
Mhm.
because that's going to tell you where the core belief is. You may not understand that belief. You may have to go back in and discover and ask some serious questions, like, why do I believe it's not safe for me to have this success? Do I believe it's not, it's not for me? What's going on here? But the first thing you do is you look at your life and you go,
Right.
what's here? Because that's based on what my beliefs are.
Well, and the other thing too, that sometimes people are afraid to talk about this stuff because they're afraid of, I don't want to bash my mom and dad, or, I really didn't have a crappy upbringing. And that's very quite possibly true. I had a client just recently that I worked with that didn't have any of those stereotypical situations where, she didn't have abuse or alcoholic parents, or, whatever the thing would be that would be really bad. But what she did have is she had a split belief around the word responsibility. And because of this split word of responsibility, she was having a problem with her eating. And she just thought it was because her diet was wrong or that she was lazy. And it was like, no, she had to take care of farm animals when she was young.
Mm-hmm.
She was in 4-H, and so she was raising them. So she was, was very responsible every day. At some point, she had to clean out the water buckets and they'd get all slimy and stuff. And, that's no fun for a kid to have to clean out green slime.
Mm-hmm.
But her mom figured out a way that at McDonald's, they gave away their pickle barrels every day. So they would go get new pickle barrels for water. And when they would get the pickle barrels, she would get like a Happy Meal or something like that. So for her, there was the split. For her, that was a fun time. She was still being responsible because she was still watering her animals, but she didn't have to clean out the buckets. It got a little bit easier. And as a result of it being easier, she got rewarded with this food. But she wasn't seeing the correlation because there was nobody to blame, and that's, I think, a lot of times when people come, at least for coaching or counseling, is they feel like, but I don't have anybody to blame for why my life is like it is. And I'm thinking, you don't have to have anybody to blame. We just need to look at your beliefs to see maybe there's a fragment there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe in this case of talking about intuition, maybe you've already known you were intuitive, but nobody taught you how to cultivate that.
Right.
And so you've labeled that of, well, then there must be something wrong with me.
Right. Right. And sometimes when you're developing a belief, there's not malicious intent.
Right.
People think they're trying to help you or trying to raise you right.
Right. 100%.
Based upon their beliefs. And
Right.
it reminded me of when I was in therapy for a while, and I came in one day and I said, okay, so if I'm looking at what's going on for me, I would have to blame my mom. But then wouldn't I have to then blame her mom for the way she is? And then wouldn't I have to blame her mom? And he was like, yeah, there is no blame. You can't, right. People react from the space they're in until they know better. And when you know better, you do better.
100%.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it takes a while. I mean, we've both been divorced. And so, I would assume you've been divorced since you're a single mom, yeah. But eventually you have to make peace with that, if only for yourself, if only so that you feel better. And it becomes this place where we all acted from this space of trying to not be in pain anymore. And pain makes you do funny things.
Right. It does.
So once we figured that out, it had to break. But there's no blame here. There's just, it just happened. It's one of those things. And so getting that view from way back and 1,000 feet up, and understanding that there's a lot of pieces here, but there's also people acting from their pain.
Right.
Yeah. And now we could totally. Yeah, go ahead.
We're talking about the puzzle piece, this is, I don't know why this seems to be a great analogy for this conversation, as you're talking about this and forgiveness. That's what I think of almost with forgiveness from that bird's eye view that you're talking about, being 1,000 feet up, looking down. Yeah. It's almost like, okay, I'm done looking at this piece of the puzzle that I've been angry at, mad at, disappointed at, sad at, because this didn't work out. I'm going to just put this down.
Yeah.
And that's how I think of forgiveness too. It's like, okay, I'm just done. This is just, I don't need to look at this anymore.
Just going to lay it down, set it aside. It's done and it's fine. And
I'm not getting any new information from it.
Right. Exactly. Man, we could now carry on this conversation for another couple hours, but I know I've got kids, seeing your kids moving in the background and ready to go to volleyball practice. So we'll have to do this again, because I love this conversation, and it's been wonderful.
I would love to too. This has been fabulous.
Yes, we'll do it again. Let's do it again. Okay, well, I said I have to work on my closing. So thank you so very much, KellyRae Brown. It has been a pleasure talking to you today. And yeah, that's all I can think of for a closing. It works. All right, yay.
Thank you so much, Star. I so appreciate that. I look forward to us having because I could just talk to you forever on this. This is fabulous.
I know. It's cool. All right. Hey, thanks for joining us on this one. Wasn't it fun? Oh my gosh, I just love her. Next week, we get to talk to the irrepressible, remarkable, wonderful girlfriend from the UK, Miss Charlie Edwards, who just, another friend. I contacted it out of the blue, and we've just hit it off ever since and support each other and adore each other. So look forward to that next week. If you love this series, be sure and hit the subscribe button below so you can catch up on all of our Wednesdays. And don't forget to join us on my Facebook page and in the Yonder Star Intuitive Design group. We will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.